The content you're about to enjoy comes from the archives of The Best You. We're devoted to the very best in personal development. With a magazine and resources dedicated to inspiring and changing people's lives, at The Best You, we work with the world's leading writers and trainers on the evolution of the self, and people whose journeys have been affected by their work and words. For more information, go to www.thebestyou.co.
All right, we're back on the main stage, the Best You EXPO 2020 virtual experience, 7 days of amazing speakers. More to go. We're finishing up our last day, and then we're headed over to Dallas. I'm so excited to introduce this next guest. You know him from The Secret. You know him from many, many stages, many places throughout your journey. He's been here. James Arthur Ray is our next speaker. James is an author of 6 internationally best-selling books, including his New York Times bestseller, Harmonic Wealth, The Secret to Attracting the Life You Want, and co-author and contributor to The Secret, which we all know so well. And I told him in the green room, I've met every person from The Secret except James Arthur Ray, and now I feel complete. So I'm honored to continue this introduction. Ray has worked with over 1 million people from 145 countries through his audio, video, coaching, and life and business leadership programs. Over 1 million people have attended his live events. Life and Business was released in February of 2020. James Arthur Ray's company hit the INC 500 in 2009 as one of the fastest growing, most successful privately held companies in the United States and possibly the world. In 2007, he was awarded the Distinguished Toastmasters Award for Outstanding Communication and Leadership. His book, Harmonic Wealth, was voted as one of the top celebrity reads by People magazine in 2008. Fortune magazine wrote a full feature article on him in 2008, heralding him as the new front runner in leadership and performance. James Arthur Ray on the main stage of the Best You EXPO. James, how are you, sir? I'm so excited.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm doing very well. Glad to be here.
Life's been a journey for all of us, you as well, and you've written another book that describes, I'm sure, your journey, and I'm so excited to listen to your talk. I want to give you as much time as possible. So I'm going to get off stage. You set to go?
I'm ready.
All right, my brother. You take care.
Thank you. Show me who you are in your darkest hour, and I'll show you who you are. Now, let me ask you, have you experienced some significant change in your life or your business in the last 10 years? Have you? How about in the last 10 months, significant change? How about the last 10 weeks, significant change during these crazy times? Anyone for 10 minutes? Well, we live, let's face it, in turbulent times, and I feel your pain. You see, in 2009, I was living the American dream. You've heard of that one, right? My team, my company, and I had just been inducted into the Inc. 500 with one of the fastest growing, most successful privately held businesses in the nation, if not the world. I had multiple millions of dollars in the bank. I was on the Today Show once a month for several months running. I've been on Oprah twice, Larry King twice. My book, Harmonic Wealth, my New York Times bestseller, hit the top of the list in the first 5 weeks of its release. I had just moved into my dream home. I held a long-term vision, and it came to fruition in March of 2009. I moved into a 7,500 square foot estate in Beverly Hills on Mulholland Drive. I was, as you heard earlier, written up in several magazines. People magazine nominated Harmonic Wealth as one of the top celebrity reads in 2008. Also, Fortune magazine wrote a full feature article on me, calling me the new front runner in leadership and performance. I was living the American dream. I remember sitting down with my then money manager in March of 2009 for our regular quarterly financial checkup. He pulled the papers out of his briefcase and set them on my desk, looked across at me and said, "James, you've done it. Now, I kind of knew what he was talking about, but I was playing coy like I didn't. And I said, I've done what, Michael? And he said, you've made it. You could retire today, and barring anything unforeseen, you could live comfortably for the rest of your life. Now, I got to tell you, I didn't want to retire because I love what I do, but it sure felt good to know that I could. Does that make sense to you? Would you like to have that feeling as well? Well, little did we know that in just a few short months, very same year, fast forward with me to October of 2009, 7 months into the future, everything would be totally and completely gone. In October of 2009, my team, my company, and I were conducting a workshop in Sedona, Arizona, a 5-day deep dive into the drivers of your success or failure. Now, regardless of what you've been told or taught, the drivers of your success and failure are not outside of you. The drivers of your success or failure are buried deep inside you. Does that make sense to you? And so what we were doing in this 5-day retreat was a deep dive into our own unresolved emotional issues. Psychology tells us 95% of what you do every single day is driven by your unconscious mind. Now, here's the rub, because you can't deal with something you're unconscious of. Are you with me? And so we were bringing the unconscious into conscious awareness so we could heal it, release it, integrate it, and literally set ourselves free. Well, it was an intense program, as you might imagine, and we worked long together. We worked hard together. We cried together. We laughed, we hugged, and those clients very quickly moved from the category of client into the category of friend. You see, the fact was, I knew more about them than maybe some of their nearest and dearest friends and loved ones. Just the nature of the program, about their innermost fears, uncertainties, self-image, limiting beliefs. They were friends. Well, at the end of that 5-day retreat, we had an experiential exercise called a sweat lodge. We'd had it for several years prior, and it was always a high point. It was a way to experientially take all the hard work we'd done psychologically and emotionally, transfer it into our bodies, and then go into a difficult environment and push up against our own boundaries and prove to ourselves and to the universe that we would be able to transfer all this hard work we'd done into our daily lives upon leaving the 5-day workshop. And as I said, it had always been a high. People felt victorious coming out because there was some uncertainty going in, but not in 2009. In October of 2009, something went incredibly wrong that day. And 3 of my clients who had now become friends lost their lives that day. Now, have you ever lost someone that you love and care about? Have you? Then you know how that feels. The emptiness, the vacancy, the pain, the loss. And what made it worse for me is that it happened on my watch. It was the antithesis of anything I'd ever lived my life for or stood for in my life. My entire life had been about helping you and everyone I'm blessed to serve to awaken more fully and to step into their full potential, not to hurt or to harm. And so it was heartbreaking. There were some days when it would have been more than I could take. And yet it didn't end there, because the state of Arizona decided to charge me with a crime. And the minute they did that, my American dream started to fall apart like shards of broken glass. not only did I lose 3 people that I loved and cared about, but I subsequently lost my Inc. 500 company. It took me 20 years to build. The press, who once loved me, now absolutely crucified me. I lost my life savings. I lost my self-confidence, quite frankly. I lost my so-called friends and colleagues, those who said they loved me and would do anything for me and wanted to be working with me just weeks earlier, disappeared like mist in the noonday sun. I lost who I was, and I lost, eventually, my liberty. I was indicted, I was prosecuted, and I was convicted of negligence. You see, the state of Arizona attempted to charge me with intentional harm, and yet the jury could find not one shred of evidence of intentional harm. And yet I was convicted of negligence, and I lost my liberty. Emerging from the prison in Arizona in 2013, in the barren desert of Arizona, I was shattered. I was 54 years of age. I was in horrible physical condition. I'd lost about 40 pounds I didn't need to lose. I had periodontal disease. I was alone. I was homeless. And I was $20 million in debt. Now, let me ask you, what do you do when every single thing you've believed about your life, about yourself, about your country, about your liberties, what do you do when every single thing you've built your life around and lived your life for? What do you do when it's all completely and totally gone?
For complimentary resources from my book, my complimentary e-course, The Power of the Question, or recommended reads, go to www.thequestion.com/resources. For more information on my coaching or mentoring, go to www.bernardo-moya.com.
Well, if you're wise, you dig deep. I was in serious need of redemption. I needed to redeem my courage. I needed to redeem my character. I needed to redeem my confidence. Most importantly, I needed to redeem my true self. Now, this word redemption is an important word, and that's why it's the title of my latest book, The Business of Redemption. And we're going to invest some time here in this short amount of time we have today talking about this concept and how it applies to you right now during this COVID circus that we're all a part of. Because the word redemption, properly defined, means to gain or regain something by paying the price. And let me promise you this, there is always a price for the prize. Does that make sense to you? And the bigger the prize you're going after, the bigger the price you must pay. And regardless of what you've been told or taught, there is no redeemer outside of you. I don't care who the next president is. I don't care who has the House or the Senate. I don't care who's in charge of the World Health Organization or the CD. There is no redeemer outside of you. Your redeemer is you. And you've got to be willing to pay the price for your prize. Are you with me on this? You see, so many people are not willing to pay the price. They're looking for some salvation or savior outside themselves. We need to stop looking for leaders and become the leader that we're meant to be. And I hope you're following me on this. I was deeply in need of redemption. Now, let me ask you, is there something you've never had before in your life that you need to gain that you've never had? No or yes? Is there something that maybe you've lost that you need to regain? Bring it back. No or yes? Well, there's a price for that. And you can do it. I promise you, you can do it. Just 7 short years ago, I told you where I was in the desert of Arizona. You can do it. What I'd like to share with you here today are 3, we don't have a lot of time, 3 fundamental principles that you need to understand and, more importantly, apply. Now, look, I'm not here to just educate you or entertain you today, although maybe some of that will happen. I'm not here to motivate you or to inspire you, although maybe some of that will happen. What I'm here to do is to give you the tools and the strategies and the techniques that I have used so that you can use them too in your own turbulent times in which we're living. Is that of interest to you? I'm going to encourage you to take some notes. I'm going to encourage you to turn off everything else. We're in a unique environment here today, and I can't see your response, but I'm going to challenge you to respond to me. And you say, that's kind of silly, James. Well, no, it isn't, because accelerated learning proves the more you take notes and the more you respond when I ask you a question, the more you retain. The greater the ROI, return on investment. And so I want to share with you in this short amount of time, it's going to go really quickly here today, 3 fundamental principles that you must understand and, more importantly, apply. And let me go through them real quickly first, and then we'll come back and dive more deeply into each of them one at a time. All right? The first one is you have to redeem your true self. Principle number 2, you have to reinvent and redeem. Pay the price for the prize. Number 3, you have to redeem your purpose. So let's get into principle number 1 right out of the gate here. Redeem your true self. You know, for the first 30 days that I was incarcerated, maybe even a little bit more than that, I was in solitary confinement in a facility called the Walls, what's also known as the Hole. You've probably heard of that in the movies. The Hole, solitary confinement, and I was right next to death row. I was in cell block 5, cell number 7. Going into the cell, I look around, and there's no window. There's just a small concrete slab in the corner with about a 1-inch urine-stained mattress. There's a very small stainless steel toilet and a stainless steel sink that were so crusted with calcium that water could barely run. It had never been cleaned. I'm sure of that because it smelled like urine and excrement. And that's where my life began on that particular phase of my journey. There was no books, no pens, no paper, no Pandora, no cell phone, no television, no company, just me, 4 walls, and God. I got out of my cell once a week for recreation. And here's what recreation looked like. And to get out of the cell was a major ordeal. I'll tell you about that in just a moment. But recreation was being taken out in shackles to the yard and put into a very small fenced in area with a concrete floor. And that was my recreation. Of course, there was nothing in there, but at least I got some sunshine and fresh air. I got out of the cell twice a week for a shower. And sometimes it felt like it wasn't even worth it, because to get out of the cell, the guard would come up and pound on the steel door, and there's a small window, and he'd look through, and he would command me, first of all, to strip. I'd take off a piece of clothing one at a time. I shake it out to prove there was no weapons hidden. After I was completely stripped, then I had to ruffle my hair to prove there was nothing hidden in there. I had to pull each ear forward to prove there was nothing hidden behind my ear, raise my tongue. I mean, this was right next to death row. There were dangerous men in this facility. The guards had to protect themselves. And then I was subjected to the final phase of the search. That was a cavity search. Once that was done, I was commanded to get dressed once again. And then he would flip down a trap door in the steel door. I would back up, and he would shackle me through the trap door. I would step forward. The door would slide open. I'd step out into the run, and they would shackle my ankles as well and connect them to my hands. I now would shuffle down the run with an armed guard, carrying my towel and a bar of soap behind my back. When I got to the shower, it was a cage about this wide with a big lock on it, obviously. He would unlock the cage. He'd put me in the cage, still shackled. Then he'd command me to back up to the cage. I would back up to the cage. The trap door would come down again. He'd reach in, unlock the shackles, and pull everything out, shut the door, lock it. And now it was time for me to shower, but not in private. Because you see, in the center of the run was a large 360-degree glass dome containing multiple armed guards. They watched every single move every inmate made from that glass dome, including while we showered. And sometimes I was observed by a female guard. Every degree of privacy, every degree of self-importance, everything that you think about yourself or once did fell away. Once I was done, same ordeal. Back up, get shackled, waddle back down, go to my cell. They'd open the door, go in shackled, back up, get unshackled, and there I was. Me, four walls, and God. And this was my life. Early one morning, in the stillness, I heard a tapping on the steel door of my cell. I knew this wasn't a guard because guards banged on the cell. Tapping on the cell, followed by Mr. Ray. Mr. Ray, is that you in there? Now, you got to imagine I'm in maximum security with right next to death row. My imagination starts to go wild. Who the heck is out in the hallway saying my name? You know, you can imagine how your imagination would go. And I didn't answer. Again, Mr. Ray, is that you in there? Slowly, I walked over to the door, and there was a little crack between the concrete wall of the cell and the door so that the iron door could slide open and close. I looked through the crack, and I could see half of a face. And the man said, "This is Eddie." He said, "Hey, aren't you that guy that writes bestsellers and coaches people and travels around the world?" I said, "Well, I used to be." Because you see, that image of me was so far in the rearview mirror that I could barely get my mind around it anymore. He said, "Well, my name's Eddie, and, I just want to come by and say hello." He said, "I can't stay long because if the guards see me, I'll get busted." And I said, "Eddie, what are you doing out in the hallway in the run in maximum security?" He said, "Well, Mr. Ray, I've been here a long time. And because of good behavior, they let me out for an hour every morning to sweep the run and mop the run. He said, I've got life plus 5. He said, I got to go. And he's gone, leaving me hanging. I'm like, life plus 5? What the heck does that mean? I mean, do the math. It doesn't even compute, right? Life is life. Well, the next morning, I heard the rapping on the cell door again. Mr. Ray, it's Eddie. And we started to build a relationship over time in little sound bites. And I found out the life plus 5 was a state of Arizona's way to ensure that if Eddie, in the remotest of possibilities, would get a pardon, that he'd still have 5 years to do. Eddie told me over time that he was in for murder. And he felt such remorse for what he had done. And I know this was genuine. Have you ever had a situation where you feel the energy from another person and you just know what they're saying is true? You can just feel it. It was like palpable. I could feel it through the steel door. He felt horrible for what he'd done. He said, Mr. Ray, I got drunk one night and I did a stupid thing. I so wish I wouldn't have. Eddie told me over time how he had 3 kids who he would never see again. He told me what a horrible father and role model he was for his kids. He told me he had a wife that he loved that he would never see again. You see, Eddie knew he was going nowhere. Eddie knew that the only taste of liberty he would have for the rest of his life was 1 hour in run number 5 to sweep and mop the run. One particular day, he was really at a low of lows. I could just feel that too. And he said, Mr. Ray, I just don't know if I can take it anymore. He said, I don't know that I have what it takes to go on. Have you ever felt that way? He said, what's the use? I said, Eddie, have you ever heard of Mahatma Gandhi? He said, yeah, I think I have. He was a smart guy. Yeah, I think I have. I said, well, Gandhi was considered the father of his nation in India. They called him Bapu, which means father. And the Indian people wanted their freedom from Great Britain, and it wasn't coming just for the asking. And so they decided to resist and to revolt, not by throwing bricks and turning over police cars, but they chose a method that they called passive resistance, a method of love. And they decided to fast. And so they would fast many times for weeks upon a time, and Gandhi would as well. Now I said, Eddie, can you imagine? Because he was the father of the nation, anything Mahatma Gandhi did was a big deal. Do you get that, Eddie? He said, yeah, I do. I said, and so, as Gandhi is fasting and all these people are fasting, the people of Great Britain started to get a little nervous because what's going to happen if there's a big uprising here? We're outnumbered. One particular day, a reporter came in to Gandhi's camp and he looked around and the Indian people were emaciated and starving. And he came up to Gandhi and Gandhi seemed like he was in pretty good spirits. He said, Bapu, how is it that all of your people are sick and starving, and you seem to be in such great spirits? And Gandhi said, I'm not starving. I'm choosing to fast. I said, do you get it, Eddie? He goes, yeah, I think I do. I got to go. And he's gone. Well, I didn't hear from Eddie for a few days. And I started to get concerned because he was really at a low the last time I spoke with him. And people do crazy things in prison. Fast forward a couple of days more into the future, I hear a banging on my cell door early in the morning. And you know how it is when you just wake up and you have to pull your consciousness together and you don't even know who you are or where you are. You know, it's kind of like that. It's in the dead of night. Boom, boom, boom. Ray, roll up. And I'm like, roll up? What the heck does that mean? They don't tell you because you're not a human being. You're what they call property of the state. You're a thing. As I started to become more awake, I realized, okay, roll up means I'm probably leaving, but where am I going? I don't know. They don't tell you. You're property of the state. You're a number. So I grabbed my belongings, which were not much. You know, I had a shower towel and a toothbrush and a bar of soap and the clothes on my body. Guard comes up to the door. I go through the ritual once again, backing up, strip search, all that. I come out, I get shackled, and now I'm waddling down run number 5, with an armed guard on either side of me, going God knows where, all the way. At the end of the run, there's a voice. Mr. Ray. Mr. Ray, thank you. Be strong. It's Eddie. And as I'm walking down the run, I look over my shoulder and I yell back at him, you be strong, Eddie. And he came back, I will, Mr. Ray. I'm choosing it. In that moment, something in me awakened. It shifted and it integrated. As much as I may have helped Eddie, he helped me every bit as much. Because I had forgotten who I was. I realized in that moment that it was time for me to take my power back.
For more information on collaborating, partnering, sponsoring, supporting, or speaking at any of our events or finding out more about our legacy clubs, go to www.thebestyou.co. If you're interested in finding out more about the amazing content we have, please go to www.thebestyou.online and get your 14-day free trial now.
Let me tell you something. That is your true self. And that's what you must redeem. Because you are not your business. You're not your body. You're not your bank account. I know you might be facing some tough times right now, but those are not who you are. Those are things you have had, or maybe you have, but it's not who you are. Does that make sense to you? This is true autonomy. You see, we think that autonomy is doing what we choose to do. But true autonomy is not doing what you choose to do. True autonomy is choosing to experience what life throws at you the way you choose to experience it. Are you following me on this? That's autonomy. That's true self-awareness. Because let me tell you something. You are not what you have. Your true wealth is not what you have. Your true wealth is what you're left with when all you have is gone. Do you get that? It's not just about self-governance, doing what you want to do. There's a lot of things we're not able to do what we want to do in today's world. And yet, the greatest freedom you have and the true autonomy you have is to choose to experience what life is bringing to your table the way you choose to experience it. It's not just self-governance, it's self-awareness, true self-awareness. And most people have very little awareness of who they really are. You're not what you do. You're not what you have. You're not your body. You're not your business. You're not your bank account. You have a body. You're not your body. You're an infinite potential and capability having an experience in a physical body. And I hope that's landing home with you right now. It's time to redeem your true self, to take your power back. Now, I'd love to dive deeper. We don't have a lot of time. I'd love to dive deeper with you here today. And because of time on this main stage presentation, what we're doing is I'm doing a breakout right after this presentation. And I hope you'll join me there, because my plan there is to take questions and to give you the best experience that I've got. And I've got some exercises for you. So we'll dive into that in the breakout session, more workshop oriented. Let's get into principle number 2, redemption. And we said it was reinvention. Reinvention. And you must pay the price for that as well. Look, so many people that I coach right now during the COVID circus are waiting for things to hurry up and get over with so things can get back to normal. Have you heard that one? Man, I'm just tired. Are you tired? Have you had enough of it? I get it. Are you ready for it to be done already? I get it. But let me tell you something. It's not going to be over, and it's not going to be over soon. I wish I had different news for you. But at the earliest it's going to break is in 2021. So we've got to get our game on. And guess what? People want to go back to normal. Let me tell you something. Going back wasn't that great. And let me tell you why. Let me tell you some of the statistics that have been proven and shared prior to COVID circus. 72% of the people surveyed prior to COVID said they were unhappy, disengaged, and totally miserable in their life and business. 72%. That's almost 3/4 of the population. You know, most of the people I coach are doing really well. They had great money and a great business, and they're dragging their tired bodies into a job or into a business that they despise. And they're worried all day that they're going to lose it. What sense does that make? Zero. Let me ask you this question. How many times have you thought to yourself or said to others, I need a new job. I need a new business. I need to do something different with my life. Well, guess what? Life has given you what you asked for, hasn't it? Here's your opportunity. How are you using it? Most people are not doing very well. Most people are so busy trying to hang on to something they didn't even enjoy. Life is too short to not do something that you love. We have to practice what I call zero-based thinking. Start at ground zero. Here's your opportunity. It's not easy, but it's a great opportunity. Ground zero, knowing what I now know. What am I going to do moving forward? What will I not do that I once did that didn't work? What did I do that did work? Zero-based thinking. How are you doing on that one? Let me give you some more statistics. Prior to COVID, 43% of the people surveyed said they were, quote, too exhausted to perform in their daily work. 43%. Now, there's a lot of reasons for this, which we can get into in the workshop if you'd like. A lot of reasons, but let me give you one of them. IBM tells us that knowledge is doubling every 12 months right now in our world. And very soon, it's going to be doubling every 12 days. We're inundated with information every single day. False or true? We are inundated with information consistently. There's no way we can keep up. There's no way. And it can be daunting. It can be overwhelming. It's so distracting. And all these interruptions and all these things bombarding our nervous system, it's exhausting, isn't it? 16.2 million people prior to COVID in the U.S. alone said they were depressed. And most of them are on antidepressant meds. And all of these numbers are rising since COVID craziness hit. 16.2 million people depressed. Every 40 seconds, someone commits suicide in our world today. Every 40 seconds. There's more deaths by suicide in our world, and these numbers have risen too, than all the deaths by war, terror, crime, disease, viruses combined. Let me tell you something. Going back is not an option because it wasn't that good. We have an opportunity to move forward, to change the conversation, and to move forward into a new future. And it has to start with you. You have to reinvent yourself. And you have to be willing to pay the price for your prize. Let me tell you some stats from Bloomberg, one of the top business magazines. Bloomberg finds that 70% of the people they surveyed are, quote, unfit to lead. Unfit to lead in today's world. And there's a lot of reasons for that as well. But let me give you a couple of them that are applicable today. Number one, they don't have the mental toughness and the emotional strength to adapt and adapt quickly. Do you feel that today? You see, we live in a world that is caught up in IQ, and yet mounds of research prove that EQ, emotional intelligence, AQ, adaptability intelligence, are far more predictive of life and business success than IQ ever will be or has been. How many times do you, like me, know someone who's an intellectual giant and they're an emotional child? We have to develop our mental toughness, our emotional strength, and that's job number one in today's world. Here's another one, according to Bloomberg, that people are not fit to lead their life and their business. They don't make decisions quickly enough. Leaders make quick decisions. Leaders make quick decisions. Amateurs want to think about it. Let me tell you something. As a leader, I can make a decision with the information I have. It's doubling every 12 months. There's no way I'm ever going to have all the information. I can take big action upon it. I can really mess it up, step back, analyze, adjust it, and act again far more quickly than you can analyze to perfection and think about it and do nothing. The longer you think about it, the more quickly you're becoming a dinosaur, particularly in a turbulent world. And so we've got to reinvent ourselves. It's not easy, but it can be magnificent when you do it correctly. Let's move in quickly to principle number 3. Purpose. We have to redeem our purpose. You see, far and away, the number one thing that I've worked with over 1 million people around the globe that people do not know, and the number one question they ask is, what's my purpose? Why am I here? What's the meaning of life? Some derivation thereof. You see, you have to clearly define your purpose, what I call your PTP, your powerful transforming purpose. When I was standing in the desert of Arizona in 2013, just 7 years ago, and I told you the situation I was in, I didn't know which way I was going to go, but I knew that I had to get my head on right. I knew I had to get mentally and emotionally focused and centered, or I was not going to be able to get through the storm. And so I did something counterintuitive. $20 million in debt and homeless. I went to my mother. God bless her. She's in her 80s now, and she's known me my entire life, obviously. So she wasn't that surprised. And I said, Mom, I need to borrow several $1,000s from you. And she knew my situation. She said, okay, son, what are you going to do with it? I said, I need to invest in a program that's going to help me get myself back together. Because you see, inner unity is power. Inner diversity is chaos. And she said, okay, son. And I said, I'll pay you back. She said, I know you will. Now, you see, when I started going through that program, I started slowly and surely putting the pieces of Humpty Dumpty back together again. I started to remember who I really was. I started to remember that I was not all those accoutrements and accolades and accomplishments that I'd once had. So much more than that you are. If you saw me in the very first interview with Piers Morgan, upon my release, he said to me, James, what are you going to do now from here? And I said, I don't know, Piers. And I really meant that. I did not know because I was so disillusioned and I was so shattered and I was so, my whole world model was broken. And yet little by little, I started to put it back together. And when I decided to take what I had learned, the lessons life had given me, and come and share them with you, maybe in your time of tribulation. My mom said, my mom and my family had been through the whole meltdown with me, and it was hard for them. You can imagine as a mother to see your son crucified in the press, to see them deride him and attack them and say all kinds of things about him that she knew was not true. It broke her heart. And she said to me, son, you're going to go back and share and teach and coach with people again? I said, yes, Mom, I am. She said, son, after all you've been through, they're going to attack you. You know what's going to happen. I said, I know. And she said, why would you put yourself through that? I paused. And she said, it's all right, I get it. She said, you don't have a choice, do you? I said, no, Mom, I don't. Now, you might argue that I have a choice. We always have a choice. And at some level we do. But let me tell you something. When you know so crystal clear why you are here, what your purpose is, and you know the price, the redemption is going to be high, you will not give up. Because the choice has already been made. You see, we need to change the conversation in this world. We have an opportunity right now in this critical fulcrum in history. We need to change the conversation because what we've done, and there's still so many people running around talking about, oh, here's how you can make money during this crisis. Let me tell you something. There's nothing wrong with money, but take it from experience. That can be gone in a heartbeat. We've traded money for meaning. And that's why people are depressed and taking their own lives. We've traded purpose in for profit. We need to change the conversation. We've traded contribution for acquisition. How can I get more instead of give more? We have to change the conversation, and that's what true leadership is all about. We have an opportunity to do that. You see, you live in a system that has conditioned you to forget what's truly important. And sometimes it takes a good crisis to bring you back to your heart and to center. Can you relate to this? Junk food has made us ill and weak physically. Junk values have ruined our lives. You see, when you find your purpose, a purpose is always more compelling than a goal. A purpose will get you up and keep you moving forward long after a goal has worn out its welcome. That's my wish for you. Because that's when life really becomes meaningful and magical. It won't be easy. It's not supposed to be easy. But it will be meaningful. Let me tell you something. William James, the father of modern psychology, said, if you want to transform your life, there's 3 things you have to do. Number 1, according to William James, you have to start immediately. The only time you have is right now. You have to start immediately, because the way you start says a lot about how you will finish. Number 2, according to William James, begin flamboyantly. You know, if anything's worth going after, it's worth going all in. If you aren't willing to go all in, then don't even go. Go big or don't go. And number 3, according to William James, no exception. No exception. Look, when you redeem your true self, you remember who you are, not what you have, not what you do, but who you are, your God-given potential and capabilities. And when you redeem and reinvent yourself, maybe multiple times, the recent statistics tell us every single one of us here today is going to have to reinvent ourselves at least 5 times over the remainder of our career. But you pay the price for your reinvention, coming from zero-based thinking. And then finally, you redeem your purpose and you start to live a purposeful life. You will become unstoppable. You will become unstoppable. You will become a force, a harbinger for good in this world. You will fulfill the reason that the creative source has sent you here at this particular time in history. Howard Thurman, the great civil rights leader, said, don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive. Because what the world needs is more people who have come alive. I want to thank you for your time here today and for honoring me with your presence. I know you've got a lot of things you could be doing. 3 things I'll leave you with. Start immediately. Begin flamboyantly. No exception. God bless. I hope to see you in the workshop directly after. God bless you.
James Arthur Ray, I got to tell you, I have been following you well before all this happened. And when it happened, I was like, this man, of any person on this planet, we are watching to see how you deal with this, because you're our leader. And if you deal with it through everything you taught us, you're going to get through this. And you're showing us today, and I'm continuing to watch you walk the talk that you have said for so many years. And I am so touched to be honoring to watch you and to end our night. Bernardo Moya is next. We're so honored to have Bernardo, who created this whole thing. But you're really ending our program. And I feel you. You're so honest right now, and you're so pure. There's no BS, no sales, no nothing. You are telling your story, and amen. What a way to end the Best You Expo, 7 days virtually. You are proof that you can go through anything. And I needed this today. And I'm sure everyone watching needs this. And thank you for getting back up again and continuing. From my heart to your heart, thank you.
That means a lot to me. Thank you so much as well.
James Arthur Ray at the Best You Expo 2020 virtually. We are so excited to be bringing this to a close with our founder, Bernardo Moya. He's up next. I'm going to go to a commercial. Once again, James Arthur Ray.
For more information, go to www.thebestyou.co.